Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like the video.
Hello and welcome everybody. I want to talk to you today about the best way to set up an arena defense, and there's only one counter to this defense, and I want to show you why you would set it up and then what are some additional or different options. With the change to Triton, Triton's base speed is 116. He's the 1C Emperor. And so what that means is that out of all of the monsters who in the game who have attack bar boosters, the only one that is faster than Triton is Kabila. So let me pretend I was going to test. And if this was the defense that I saw, here's how I would beat it. And there's only one way to beat it, okay? You either have Samoth or Vanessa for the 33% speed lead, okay? Kabila has a base speed of 120. And so, the same rune set on Kabila compared to Triton, Kabila, assuming the same, all things being equal, Kabila's going to move first, okay? Kabila gives you an attack bar boost, and then there's one of several ways to do this, but you would build a really fat Lucian, and after your Kabila moves, you would either use Tion or Konamaya, or if you're lucky enough and you have this guy, Dova, what is unique about them is they fill up the ally's attack bar to the max and increases the target's attack speed. Dova is better than the other two, but Dova has this little passive over here where if you're fat Lucian, your Lucian who's really, really tanky, Lucian's going to have the least amount of hit points. And so when Dova goes, Lucian with full hit points is going to get the attack bonus. And so Dova on offense, you give the attack bar boost. Now your Lucian gets to hit everybody. He has attack buff, and his speed has been increased for 2 turns. So that would be the way that you would defeat this. Let's throw a Lucian in there. And that would be the way, and the only way that I see, all things being equal, for the speed of the runes. I suppose if you didn't have Dova, there is another attack bar booster. You could throw in here Bastet, and Bastet could do the same thing, although your Lucian would have to still have pretty significant speed in order to not be cut by some of the others, since Bastet does not just fully maximize Lucian's attack bar. So those are, now that you see that Kabila is the only way to outspeed Triton, knowing that that's the only way that this can happen, what other things could they possibly put with Kabila? Well, I suppose if they had, if they wanted to try to Zyros something, Zyros is slow, extremely slow. You're going to have a very hard time getting his speed up high enough so that the 30% buff or boost to attack bar from Kabila, which is this one, you'd have to have a Zyros, around 250-ish speed, 260, in order to boost and go. And if you're going to use Zyros or something like that, if you're a Zyros, that would potentially work, but you'd have to have your Galleon and your Zyros both over 250 speed, and that's pretty difficult to do if you're wanting to be doing a lot of damage. What's another option? Well, some people like to use Alicia. Can you Alicia this defense? Okay, well, you potentially can. And the way that you could do that, you could still do the fat, just like a fat Lucian. You could potentially bring in Tion or Konamaya or Dova, and try to Alicia this. Okay, so I'm going through what are the possible counters to this. You could build a fat Zyros and again do the same thing with a Konamaya or Dova or Tion. Okay, all of these defenses. So you basically, if you wanted to, you would basically be able to pick. You would have one monster to attack all of them, and it's all based off of you hope that your speed runes are better than their speed runes. That's pretty risky, and the question is are you gonna risk that during rush hour? I think if you're looking for an easy kill, something that you can Lucian, are you gonna take it into? Are you gonna take it into a team with fire units? Can Zyros do enough damage on his own to completely wipe them out? Because you can build a super tanky Rika. You can build a super tanky Kumar. Okay, I don't have them built yet the way that I would because they just changed with the new patch. So next free rune removal, I'm going to be changing them. But you can easily have your Vanessa, your Rika, and your Kumar have over 40,000 hit points. And so the question is even if you outspeed and you're either Zyros or your Alicia or your Lucian is able to move next and hit them, is Alicia going to do 40,000 damage and be able to kill them off? Because if not, then they're going to move again. And, your turn's over and now they're going to move and Triton's going to strip all your buffs. Kumar is going to silence your whole team, and Rika is either going to do her second skill, which is an area of effect. She'll stun your whole team and put slow on you, or she's going to attack you 3 times, put continuous damage on you 3 times, and decrease your attack speed. So there's no easy way out of this. The only way really is to hope that you can outspeed their Triton with your Cabela. All right, now that I've shown you what the ways are to beat this defense, I want to show you how you would build the defense. You want Triton to have your very fastest set possible. Swift, anything. If you can get Swift well, that's great. You should be able, the very fastest player is going to get his speed to 320 to 330 speed, okay? That's super fast. With his third skill, with Triton moving, if Triton moves first on defense, he will attack all the enemies. He will remove all their beneficial effects. So it activates with 100%, but they potentially can resist. So you're going to want to have some accuracy. Okay, but then he's going to reduce or decrease their attack bar by 25% each. And so with that pushback, you're still going to need your next 2 units after Triton to be pretty fast. Like I said, probably, you'll have to speed tune them, but you're gonna need your Rika and your Kumar, or these 2 units here. You're gonna need your last 2 fire units to be pretty fast to make sure that they don't get cut in. Now, what are some options if you don't have Rika or Kumar? Okay, well, I would use them because I would use Kumar because I think out of all the fire monsters, his base hit points is so high to start with. But if you do on defense, if you win the speed race and you move first, the AI is not going to have Kumar try to heal when nobody is hurt, which really means there's only 2 skills that he could potentially use. He's either going to use his default first skill and attack somebody, okay, remove any beneficial effects they have, and then increase his attack speed, or he's going to use this one. And since there's only really 2 skills to choose from, I like that Kumar's third skill, it's an AoE. It's going to hit everybody. Okay, it's going to silence everybody. And that means they're stuck with only being able to use their default attacks, their first skill for 2 turns. Now, with skill ups, Kumar's 75% chance let me see if it does go up. I'm not sure if it goes up. Let's cancel this. And let's go out of here and see if Kumar, where's my Kumar? Yeah, I thought it did. I just don't have him Devilmond, but with the skill ups, you get another 25%, and so it's 100% activation. They can potentially resist, but I mean, all you gotta do is beat their resistance, and that's not really that hard to do, especially knowing that the only way that they are going to potentially beat you is, and let's change this out, the only way they're going to potentially beat you is with that Kabila offense. Alright, so we'll put Triton back in here. There's Triton, and we'll put one of my 2 Rikas in there. Okay, so how do you want to build your fire monsters? And here's why you put fire monsters there. You want to be a deterrent to Lucian. You just don't want to get Lucianed. Okay? If you see 3 fire monsters like this and you're on attack, you know that your Lucian is going to glance. And instead of doing his 13 to 15,000 damage per card, he's going to do like 2,000. And he's not going to kill anybody. You basically want Kumar and Rika and Vanessa to have a ton of hit points. Make them as tanky as possible. Give them a ton of hit points. Vanessa's really only there for her speed lead. I mean, she does have the second skill, defense breaks. Okay, and that's decent, but she's really there for the speed lead. If you have Samoth, which I don't, but if you have Samoth would actually be a better leader on defense than Vanessa. Although Vanessa's going to resurrect somebody, so that's always useful. Okay, I would have Rika on Despair and Will. I would have Kumar, since he silences, there's a lot of different ways you can build him, but I would put him on Violent and give Kumar as much hit points again as possible. Hit points and crit rate, speed. You're going to have those 3 things. Now, what are some substitutes for this defense? Okay, let's go into that. What are some alternatives if you don't have Kumar or you don't have Rika? Your last 2 slots here on this defense, it doesn't really matter who they if you're wanting to deter Lucians, what matters is that fire monsters will do that. Would you want to put Zhang Fi in there? I wouldn't. Out of all the fire monsters, I mean, if he's all you've got, then maybe consider using him, but he does not have the area of effect attacks that, and that's the threat. You want to pose the threat that you're going to win the speed race, and then they fear that after Triton goes, who's your your first monster, you want them to fear that whatever your second monster to move is going to totally wreck them, and so that they choose to not even attack you. Okay. All right. So, who else could you use? Well, Ophelia, she's a great tank monster. She's HP based. Her base hit points 12,510. And she does come with the cleanse. She makes somebody invincible. But look at that. If they're trying to outspeed you and they see Ophelia, you've got a shield on there. 20% of her. Well, if you get her at around 40,000 hit points, and Ophelia moves next after your Triton, I mean, 20% is another 8,000 hit points that she's going to give to the whole team. that's significant. And speaking of rune choices, if you do take somebody like Ophelia in there, I mentioned on Kumar, I would have Kumar in Violent, and I'd have him on Will, but you might want to consider somebody like Ophelia to be like shield, Will, because those 2 shield runes is an extra 30%. I mean, we're talking about a ton of extra hit points. There's just no way that they would kill you in one turn. Would Chiwu? By the way, the only Fire Nat 5 I don't have is Brandia, and you're not going to put Brandia on defense, so I can go through these here. Are you going to put Chiwu? Well, Chiwu potentially there, but Chiwu has a 3rd skill. It is an AoE, and if your Triton for some reason missed, Chiwu, if you don't know what's going to happen you don't know what's going to happen for the AI. But if Chiwu did use his 3rd skill, he could also push their attack bar back if he removes beneficial effects. Again, he's got a lot of hit points, but instead of having his attacks based off of his hit points, it's off of his attack power. And so it's very hard to get the speed, the attack, the crit rate, and the HP that would be necessary for this type of defense. So Chiwu is not the optimal choice. What about Tessarion? He's not, because he's too squishy. Even a tanky Tessarion it doesn't really pose a big threat because he's not doing area of effect attacks, and I would not recommend it. So anyway, I would not put Tessarion in there. What about somebody like Juno? Juno could be a great additional monster. She has pretty decent hit point support. Now, the other good thing about Juno is her passive skill will give your team some healing every turn if they start to try to defense break your team and so forth. And so, if you build her with 30 to 40,000, well, I'd want to get her around 40,000 if I was putting her on my arena defense. But if you've got her in that range, if they do any area of effect attacks on Juno, then she's gonna get harmful effects put on her, and she's gonna recover everybody on the team by a lot. Her 2nd skill, if for some reason Triton didn't remove their buffs, then Juno can. And if you use Juno, I would put her on a Despair build. I would put her on a Despair blade, probably. And I would make her, again, you want to make her as fast as possible. You'd need accuracy, and you would need a lot of hit points. And her job would basically be to be cycling and getting turns with her 1st skill, stunning everybody, removing effects, putting continuous damage on, and with her 3rd, potentially healing. She is a potential option. I've already talked about Rika. What about Sekhmet? Sekhmet does have decent hit points to start with, but I gotta say her 2nd skill does attack everybody. It hits them 3 times. It does defense break, which is helpful. You can put glancing on them. You can disturb their hit point recovery, all that. It goes up to 75% if you skill her up. And then, of course, this skill would steal all their beneficial effects, and it would put them on max cooldown. I don't think when somebody sees Sekhmet on defense that they're going to think, oh, that's something I can't hit. But because Sekhmet is not typically the greatest monster. However, if you're trying to Lucian it, Sekhmet, because she has the elemental advantage against Lucian, if you're trying to bring a Lucian in, that Sekhmet is going to attack your Lucian. So what do? Like, how do you stop Sekhmet? Because Sekhmet will target Lucian. So if she goes first, she either does this, or she's going to put Lucian's skills all on max cooldown, and then he's not going to be able to do amputation magic. Or she might attack break your Lucian. Well, if your Lucian is attack broken, he's for sure not going to kill anybody with amputation magic. So Sekhmet is a possibility, but I honestly don't think she's as good as the others. What about somebody like Leica? Leica potentially. Leica would be good for, and I have this Leica. I have him built. His speed is so slow because I use him with a Leo team, a Jean and Leo team. But Leica would potentially be good because of his passive. It doesn't matter if they bring in an Alicia or whoever. If you've got Leica, he will not glance. So he's going to do max damage when he does his justice. He's going to do max damage even against water units. The other thing is the damage will not exceed 35% of his max HP. So it does limit how much damage Leica can take from a single attack. So if they did bring in like an Alicia or something like that, and she tried to use her second skill, the whirlwind thing, I forget what it's called, Leica's passive, it means he's only going to take a maximum of 35% damage. Okay, and like his first skill is, inflicts continuous damage. Now, how would I build him? If you were building Leica for this defense as one of your remaining two monsters, he's got to have a ton of speed, he's got to have a ton of hit points, and he's really going to be your damage dealer. So you need to have some attack and crit rate. I know that's a lot of requirements on one unit. I think Leica's okay, but since he doesn't have an area of effect, he doesn't have a silence like the Kumar does, he doesn't have, Rika, he's not nearly as good as Rika, because if you put her on Despair, she's going to hit him 3 times, stun him. Her second skill stuns, her third skill is going to slow him, stun him. Leica would be okay, but personally, I think there are better options. Would you want to use somebody like Velajul? I wouldn't. Velajul can basically cleanse, and you're assuming on defense that you're going to go first, so having your guys cleanse, you're getting immunity for a couple turns. I don't think it's going to pose a threat or deter people if they see Velajul. Okay. He has, and again, if you see Velajul, you know that his second skill scales off of defense, which means they're going to, how are you going to get him to 40,000 hit points if you're also trying to you need to have somebody who will do damage. And if you're putting a lot of defense on Velajul, you're probably not getting the hit points that you need to really deter something. Although he does remove stuff with his first skill, again, I think Velajul is even a worse choice than Leica. What about Okeanos or Okinos? Not sure how you pronounce his name. He would definitely be an option. And it's because he has this skill, his third skill. It'll attack everybody, and it hits them 4 times. And if you put him on Despair, the attack by itself already has a chance to stun him. But if you have him on Despair, it's an additional chance. His second skill, if you try to bring a Lucian in there, his second skill can, if he uses it, he's going to target Lucian because of the elemental advantage, and he's going to remove any will runes, potentially. You got to have some accuracy on him, and he could set Lucian's skills all the way back to their max. So although Okeanos does have an area of effect and it has a built-in stun with his last skill, I think it would be pretty tough because he's got lower base HP than some of the other fire units that I looked at, and you've got a 1 in 3 chance that he's going to use his third skill and hit everybody. So he is a potential option, but I don't think as good as Kumar or Rika. What about Perna? Perna potentially. Since Perna's only got 2 skills, everybody knows that Perna does a ton of damage. And even if you do kill Perna, how are you gonna he's going to come back to life. So, if it's only Perna alive, you're going to win on offense. But since you know that Perna's coming back, he does offer some heals and so forth to the team. But his defense is so low that any water unit is going to easily take him out. He does have very high base HP, which makes no sense for an attack unit, but it is what it is. Perna can stun, although it's not very high chance. So I personally Perna does not have an AoE attack. I would not use him. What about Rakan? Rakan is a great option, and here's why. Rakan can provoke. Let's bring him open. Rakan is an HP-based monster, so he has a ton of HP. Okay. Rakan can give himself cleanse, or no, not cleanse. He can give himself attack power and immunity for 3 turns. And then he can use this, and he can collapse them. It's scaled off of his max HP, which is what you want. He can do massive damage to a single target, and he provokes people. And then also he will counterattack. That's great, because when he counterattacks, there's a chance that he provokes them. His default skill will just do continuous damage. Now, he does not do AoE, but if you don't have some of the AoEs and you have Rakan, he's definitely an option. What about the Fire Monkey King? Fire Monkey King I would not use either. He's a defense-based monster. His base HP is not great. If they're planning to try to cleave something or bring in a defense breaker or somebody who just ignores defense, then I don't think Mei Hu Wang is that great. He does stun, and he does defense break, and he does get tougher as the battle goes on. And you could build him, since he does have high defense, and he has the same speed as Triton, the same base speed. It would be a little bit easier to get his speed up there. And so if you did put him on your team, you'd want to have Triton move first, and then have to remove all their buffs, and then have Mei Hu Wang or Vanessa move second, and hope that they use their second skill to defense break somebody. And then after them, you'd want to have your last unit move and attack the defense broken unit. But there is a better option than that. I would not use Balaguer because you're not going to be getting a whole bunch of stacks on him, so we'll just skip him. What about Daphnis? Well, Daphnis is pretty good now. Actually, Daphnis is really good. But it's a single target nuke, and I don't have him ruined. But this is so long. I mean, Daphnis can remove all the beneficial effects, defense break them, does a ton of damage. He's very difficult to build because for this defense to work, you have to have a lot of speed, you have to have a lot of hit points. Okay, and then Daphnis actually goes through 2 resistance checks to try to remove their buffs, and then to try to defense break them. Okay, so if you use Daphnis, you gotta have not only the hit points and the speed and the accuracy, but then if you want Daphnis to be your damage dealer, you need the crit rate and the crit damage on top of everything else. That's pretty hard to do. He would really take some of your very best runes. But he is an option if you had him, or if you have him as a single target nuker. But there are definitely better options. What about the Fire Druid? I actually think the Fire Druid would be great, and you would want to do it. This would be your turn order. Triton, somebody like Rika or Kumar, and then the Fire Druid. And here's why. You want to put the Fire Druid on Violent if you use him. The Triton removes all their buffs. Okay. Rika goes and either stuns them, or she puts 3 continuous damage, slow, and if you have her on Despair, which you should, she will stun them. So she can potentially put 5 harmful effects on everybody. Then you have Belinus move. All right. This Belinus sucks. I was using my way leftover runes, but if I was gonna use him on defense, I would get him up to around 260 speed, and I'd want him to move immediately, like one speed less than Rika. And the reason is the AI is pretty good about Belinus. When you use Belinus, he starts out in Druid form, and he will attack everybody, and he will attack break them, and when he's in Druid form, he's going to now defense break them. So he is definitely an option. Rika's already put potentially 5, but has not put attack break and defense break. So if Belinus moves right after Rika, and they potentially had 5, now he puts 2 more harmful effects on. Now they've potentially got a maximum of 7. Okay, and then he's going to provoke everybody. Well, when he provokes everybody, where is the guy? He's going to transform into beast form. Okay, but in beast form, this passive applies, and now his attack power is basically doubled. And even more importantly, his damage gets increased by 10% for every harmful effect that's on them. Okay, and he counterattacks. So that's pretty darn good. I mean, he becomes a single target nuker easily. But here's why Belinus would be scary. If you have him on violent, let's go back to Druid form. Rika does her thing, then Belinus does his thing, then he transforms into, he tries to provoke, and then he transforms into beast form. If he violent procs, your third skill is already used, okay? And so it's on cooldown, which means Belinus only has either his first skill, okay, which can stun, but if he uses his second skill, it's an AoE. He's gonna attack them twice in beast form. Okay, and so it's an AoE, hit everybody with his attack power doubled, and with potentially another 7, well, if he provokes them, 8. I guess if he provoked everybody, there would be potentially 8 debuffs. So he'd have his damage increased by 80%. So he's doing 180% damage and basically 200% attack power, and that would just probably wipe out their team. So he is definitely a huge threat. Now, how would you build him? Not like mine, but how would you build him? You would want to put him on violent runes. You're still going to need a ton of speed. Okay, you're still going to need somebody. You're going to need a Rika type, somebody to go right before him, and then you want Belinus to have attack. You're going to need a lot of hit points. You're going to need attack. You're going to need accuracy, to get those debuffs and the provokes to work. And then you're going to need crit rate and crit damage, because you want him to be your damage dealer. Granted, that's a lot of, he would require your very best runes, and to get all of that on violent with around 250 speed is pretty tough. I gotta say, that would be very tough, but it is possible. And if Rika moves before him and puts slow on them, it decreases his speed requirements a little bit, because now they've been slowed by 30%. So it does make it a little bit easier to rune him, but if you're going to use Belinus, he's going to need all your best violent runes for sure. Okay. Another great option, a fire option, would be the Fire Unicorn Helena. Here's why. She's got this passive. Okay, if they try to beat her with Lucian, it's not going to work. They're going to glance. If they try to beat her with Alicia, it's not going to work. It's reduced by 50%. What's going to happen? She's got one of two skills. Okay, she can either transform into human, or she can put a 30% shield on herself and 20% on everybody else. Well, her base HP is high. Again, you'd want to put a ton of hit points on her, and she would be there for two reasons. Basically, she can put another huge shield on everybody. She can potentially stun, and if she, you don't know what the AI is going to do, but if she goes into human form, she can AoE attack everybody and defense break the whole team. So if you did have Helena on your defense, you would want her to move immediately after Triton, because she potentially AoE breaks their whole team, defense breaks, and then you'd want to have your damage dealer, your other damage dealer move after Helena, if that makes sense. Okay, so Helena is definitely an option. What about Rocky? I would not use Rocky personally. She's got, she does have this AoE, and yes, she can attack everybody, but, well, if you have high crit on her, she could potentially get 2 turns in a row. There's no doubt about that. But you're going to need high crit rate, really high speed, good attack, really high hit points, some accuracy if you want to have any chance to defense break them. And the problem is that this skill is not an AoE, although it's not going to glance if she hits. Well, she won't. The AI will not target somebody like Alicia, but and it's because of Alicia that I would not use Rocky, because her defense is just much lower. So I would not use Rocky for this type of defense. Okay, I brought a couple other monsters out that you could potentially use if you don't have any of those other fire monsters. Somebody like Jean would be perfect. Okay, right after Triton moves, Jean, everybody can get Jean, the light paladin, and Jean can provoke everybody on their team, and that's great. She can also heal as she goes. You want her on violent and as fast as possible with a ton of hit points. And she can give herself invincibility as they all try to hit her. So Jean is a possibility. Now remember, if you use Jean, though, if I'm going to Lucian something and I'm looking at this defense so far, do I really care what the fourth monster is? I know that I'm not going to glance against Jean. I know I'm not going to glance against Triton. Vanessa probably doesn't seem like a big threat to me. John is a potential person for this defense, but I think is not as good as some of the other options. Okay. Now that I've gone through all those, I know that's been very long, I wanted to talk about a couple other potential options. If you have Hathor, she can put their whole team to sleep. That would be very useful. If you have Louise, or even Darian, Darian is great because he's going to reduce the damage by 20%. They see this and you've got your Rakan or something like that in there, okay, or your Kumar or whatever. They know they're not going to be able to Lucian this. They know you're going to have, first off, they don't know if they're going to win the speed race, but they know they're not going to kill Kumar. They know they're not going to kill Vanessa. And there's a good chance they probably don't kill anybody. Now, they might double Lucian it. Well, no, they can't if they're going to try to outspeed you. They've only got one space left because they have to have speed lead. They have to have Cabela. Then they have to have something like Konamaya and then Lucian. So there's only really room for one Lucian. Okay. So I just mentioned Darian because he is a potential for this type of defense. Of course, it needs to all be tested out. I would not put Zyros in there. He's too weak. The last one I would consider is with the new buff to Louise, and she's the light or the wind paladin. Okay, here's why you might want to consider Louise. All right, Triton goes first, removes, and really Kumar's the best, but anyway, Triton goes first, hopefully removes all their buffs, then Rika goes. I would have Vanessa go immediately after Triton, then Rika, and then last I would have Louise go. If this has all worked, and if they've not cut in, you want to have Louise basically one speed slower than Rika, and here's why. Louise, they buffed her third skill, okay? She's only got 3 choices. The AI is not gonna, well, it potentially could use the second, but it's unlikely because there are no harmful effects. Although you and I have both seen it where the AI is not always the smartest, she might use her second skill. But here's why you might consider, she's got very, very high HP, okay? But Louise heals, and then she puts a shield on your whole team. That's 20% of your hit points. Now you'd need to have her close to 50,000, 40 to 50,000 hit points. Lucian's going to hit you pretty darn hard. So you need to probably have at least 45,000 to be really safe. But if you've got, let's say, 40,000, she puts a shield for another 8,000 hit points on everybody. But because your team moved first on defense, and your whole team should be fully healed, and that means when she moves last, she gives your whole team immunity, plus they've now got a shield. And that's why you might consider her. She's not as good of an option as some of the others. I mean, she can stun, she can reduce attack and so forth, she can cleanse, but I think that Jean is a better choice on the paladins, just because Jean could provoke all their team or even part of their team and totally mess up their turn order. So Louise is an option if you don't have some of these other units, but like I said, probably not as good as the others. Let me take a quick look at my other Nat 5s. You don't want to have any water units, because Lucian is for sure going to critical hit them. I wouldn't do that. I've already pulled out all the Nat 5s. I suppose you could have Bulwark. Poseidon, even though I just said don't use water units, Poseidon has 2 AoE skills. They made this, they buffed his third skill. It now is proportionate to his attack speed and his attack, and so it will do additional damage. But the other thing is if Triton just removed all their buffs, Poseidon could reduce their attack bar to 0, and if he didn't use his third skill, but used instead of his second, it's still an AoE, and it silences everybody for 2 turns. So, Kumar is obviously the better choice, because Kumar will silence, but Poseidon kind of does the same thing. So if you're going to do that and use Poseidon, though, you need to be very careful about making sure he's got a ton of hit points, because, and actually, what is his base? His base is too low. It's going to be very hard for you to get everything you need and have him be tough enough. Bulwark is not really an option for this defense. I've already pulled out all the fire units. Where are my Nat 5s are down here. Yeah, I've kind of already looked at all of them. Charlotte would be another option. Charlotte, I like her because her second skill is AoE and it stuns everybody. She's basically like Rika, just not as good. But if she uses her second skill, she could potentially stun their whole team, and it decreases their attack speed, which is great. But if she uses her third skill, just like Rika, she's going to hit them all, but she's going to decrease their attack bar again 3 times 30%, and she's going to put glancing on them. And so that's pretty tough. you basically want to build her exactly like you would Rika with despair, and you got to have accuracy and despair, and then a ton of hit points. And since she doesn't have the dots, the truth is, if you get all that speed and hit points and accuracy, it's going to be hard to get her attack. Although she has a very high starting base attack, so you might be able to. I guess Charlotte would be another option. Is there anybody else? Pung Bigsnock, Ritesh. Ritesh has a bunch of hit points and has an AoE defense break, but not really. He's not deterring Lucians, that's for sure. Odin, no. Tyrannus, no. Fengyan, no. Diana, Ganymede. Well, Ganymede. Yeah, Ganymede might do that. And it's irresistible. But then again, you don't know. Ganymede might not. Ganymede might, since Triton goes first, Ganymede might do that on Triton, and then you've basically not attacked them at all. So I wouldn't put Ganymede in there. Of course, the other, let's see. Well, I know you probably don't have Pontus. I might actually put Pontus in there. Probably not. I'll probably put Rika. Pontus does that, same as all the other Sea Emperors. But then I could give my team invincibility. Yeah, I'm going to put Rika in there, though. So I'm going to have Rika and Kumar. So that's, I think, the best defense. You can Alicia it, but it forces the attacker, if they want to try to outspeed you, it forces them to use 3 units in order to maybe outspeed you, which means they're going to probably pass and not attack you. And if they pass and don't attack you, then that's good and you're winning. And I hope you liked the video. Sorry it's been so long. This is a really long video, but if you like it, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel.